Good afternoon, everyone. For everyone who's attending this seminar, today's topic is medical packaging compliance, selecting the right material for your device. And I really hope this information that I'm going to present today is going to be helpful in your packaging for your new device. Before we dive into the topic, this is just a disclaimer that the technical material presented in this preceding slides is provided in confidence and may not be disclosed to any third party. So who is Oliver? We are an exclusively healthcare focused company. As a result, we run our business as a device company. All of our manufacturing centers are ISO 11607-2016 compliant. We follow GMP practices, and over the past decade, our capital expenditures have increased tenfold to ensure all of our facilities abide by some of the most stringent industry standards in healthcare. Oliver Healthcare Packaging has been around for over 125 years. In the 1960s, when Tyvek was first introduced, DuPont approached Oliver to develop specialty adhesive coatings that would work for medical applications. Today, Oliver has over 3,500 medical customers. Our business is 100% healthcare focused. We serve medical device, pharmaceutical, biologic, and specialty drug device industries exclusively. I wanted to share our global footprint with you. We recently purchased a company based in Anaheim, California, that further broadens our product portfolio. In 2018, we opened a brand new state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Suzhou, China. At the beginning of this year, we moved into a new technical center and lab in Singapore. Our goal is to ensure that we meet and exceed the expectations of our customers, global or local. We make a wide range of products, ranging from pouches, lids, coated films, foils, Tyvek, medical papers, and clean cut cards. So this is the agenda for today's technical presentation. I will briefly introduce the two parts of 11607 standard. We will discuss some common package types, the significance of material selection for pouches, films, and Lidstock. We will discuss some common packaging failure modes with an emphasis on material properties. Finally, I will also provide an overview of the adhesive mechanism and Oliver's coating technologies and coated materials. 11607 standard is a global standard accepted by various regulatory organizations. 11607 outlines many requirements for medical device packaging, but it is the responsibility of the companies on how to meet the requirements. ISO standard requirements can also be interpreted or understood in different ways. Therefore, companies have different ways of meeting the requirements. For example, there are different transportation test standards, such as ASTM D4169, ISTA3, etc. Companies are expected to choose the correct standard based on their product distribution profile or supply chain system. ISO Part 1 discusses around package design requirements, such as material selection, design performance, and stability. ISO Part 2 discusses around process validation that covers requirements for installation qualification, IQ, operation qualification, which is OQ, and process qualification, which is PQ. The definition of a sterile barrier system, or SBS, is minimum package that minimizes the risk of ingress of microorganisms and allows aseptic presentation of the sterile contents at the point of use. Throughout the ISO standard, these requirements are specified around SBS. So the common SBS types that are typically used in the industry are pouches, which are supplied pre-made by manufacturers like Oliver, and device manufacturers make the final seal. They put the device inside the pouch and create the closure seal. This is one of the most common type of SBS. The second most common type of SBS is a tray and a lid, where the tray is supplied pre-formed from a tray manufacturer, and the device manufacturer places the device and seals with the lid and seals the tray and covers the tray and packaged in the shelf carton and a shipper. The third type of SBS is TFFS, which is thermoform form fill seal. Typically, the packaging material for this type of SBS is supplied in rolls, and the equipment forms and seal a 3D package at the end of the device manufacturer. In all the three types of common type of SBS, choosing the right material combination is key. And today's presentation is revolving around this type of discussion around the material and what kind of material is required and is compliant to choose for your particular device. Before we dive into the material and try to understand the material in a better way, let's take a step back and understand why it is important. And for that, we will look into some common type of packaging failure that is required to comply with the regulatory standards. So let's start with pouches and films. This is an example of a device. If you look at the picture, the third picture or the second picture on the second row, this shows a device inside a tight pouch. As you can see, the device is not a snug fit inside a pouch. It actually creates a lot of failure points. The first failure point, if you can see the picture on the bottom or on the left-hand side, is wrinkles and channels in the seal. This is because there is not enough space to create a seal, and during the operation, the operator is unable to hold the pouch in a way that can create a clean seal. And in an effort to do that, the operator ends up having wrinkles or creating channels in the seal. If you do a dye penetration test on this seal, which is the picture on the top, it probably will fail the dye penetration test, indicating that the channel is throughout the seal and there is a sterile barrier breach. The picture on the side shows the device on the sideways, where you can see the Tyvek is tinting at the back of the device. And on the front side, on the film side, there is a part of the device that is actually rubbing against the film. And in this process, the film starts to abrade. And the picture in the middle, the three pictures in the middle, the top, middle, and the bottom, shows the progression of how the abrasion is created. And in due course of time, the abrasion leads to slit or pinholes. Typically, this happens or this aggravates into a flex cracking. And the possible cause for flex cracking is repeated flexing of the film during distribution. To understand this, we'll play a small video. This video is actually a corrugated box in a distribution simulation on a vibration table. So as you can see in transit, which happens in a real life scenario, the device which is being distributed throughout the world or in your distribution channel is actually rattling inside the box. And if the design is improper, then you can see the pouch is actually rubbing against the box. There's a lot of movement of the pouch inside the box. And this movement is not only causing the pouch to have wrinkles and crumple, but also it rubs against the box. This can create flex cracking and pinholes. This is a slow motion. I mean, this is only a slow part of the video, but in reality, it actually really goes really fast. And you can see that, and this is the mode where you can see which is the actual scenario which happens in a real life on a truck floor, on a rail, or in a road transportation. Flex cracking can lead to a sterile barrier risk, and it can cause pinhole in material. Oliver designs and tests all their films for flex cracking. We'll show a small video of a flex crack conditioning test. This test is performed as per ASTM F392, which describes the conditioning for flexible barrier materials for flex durability. So as you can see, this film is tested for or conditioned for flex cracking. The standard tests for about 2,700 cycles for an hour. And after the conditioning is done, then the film is tested for pinholes using a dye penetration test. This is a conditioning method. All Oliver films goes through this type of testing and conditioning, and we rate our film for flex cracking on a technical data sheets. The potential solution for flex cracking, the first one is changing the dimension for a better fit, because if your device has too much room into your pouch, then that can lead to flex cracking as well. The second one, if your fit is correct, then you got to focus on the material, changing the pouch material if you have any failures. Now, in this case, we have to always remember that thicker is not always better. And this is explained by the two graphs. The graph on the left shows there's a 92 gauge PET LDPE film has more number of pinholes than a 48 gauge PET. The same thing happens for a nylon film, which is the graph on the right side. A 100 gauge nylon film shows comparatively more number of pinholes than a 60 gauge nylon. So this shows that thickness is not always better. It's actually the construction of the film, the material of the film, and the right fit for the pouch, which is used for packaging your device. Another common type of failure is puncture. The possible cause for puncture is either the device has a sharp edge, which is most likely a mold flash. The device is very tight inside a package, which was also the case in the previous mode of failure, which is flex cracking. In case of puncture, the interaction between the device and film puts the material under stress, and it can puncture the film. The puncture can happen from inside out or outside in. Typically, a bubble leak testing, which is ASTM F2 2096, can help to detect a submersion leak failure. Selecting the right film. So typically films are made of they come in different technologies, extrusion coating, extrusion lamination, and adhesive lamination. And most of the films, or if not all, they are into multiple layer films. The least common material is, or the least construction is two different webs. The outer web, which is dimensionally stable for printing, can be a polyester or a nylon, a biaxially oriented nylon. These are the most common type of outer webs. You can see the picture on the right, on the table on the right. It shows the property where PET is used and nylon is used. Nylon are typically used for high puncture resistance and high flex crack resistance, whereas PET is used for abrasion resistance and in case where lower cost is preferred. The second part of the same film is the bottom layer or the sealant layer. Sealant layer have different functions. They are used for lower melting point to bond with other substrate. They are used for creating a peelable or a well seal depending on how the application is. And the common type of sealant layers are LDPE, LLDPE, polypropylene, and co-extruded type, which is EVA or LDPE or a mixture of that. The table on the right will not go to the detail, but it typically shows what kind of property is required at the end use, and so the sealant material also selected. So this concludes the film part of it. For puncture resistant, typically the solution is to change the pouch dimensions, which is actually the most common type of solution. Or the second type is to change the film to a higher puncture resistance. The graph shows that nylon film is more puncture resistant than a polyester film. Of course, the construction, the thickness, and there are various considerations that goes into selecting the film. But the most common type is the type of polymer, and nylon is more known for providing a puncture resistance than a polyester film. Likewise, there are other materials in the industry that are coming up. Oliver offers a mounting card, which is actually used for various applications. And the benefits of that is it allows for proper sizing of the pouch. If you have multiple components on a device, or if it's a kit, then it allows for device retention or the components of the device retention on one card. basically unitizing the entire device. It actually helps in preventing kinking. It actually makes the device a low profile by unitizing it in one proper format. The combination of HDPE card and pouch with the right film can increase the robustness of your sterile barrier system. The second type of SBS is tray and FFS Lidstock. A different type of packaging system such as rigid tray or FFS is sometimes the best option depending on the device, depending on the device profile, geometry, and end use. Some common considerations for selecting a rigid tray or FFS is cost, user experience, and capital investment. Three-dimensional packaging configurations usually use a rigid tray, which can improve user experience, lower risk, and affect cost. And a form-fill seal can lower risk and material cost, but includes high capital investment. So depending on the end-use application, depending on how the company looks at the supply chain profile and the investment, a proper SBS can be selected. But in all cases, selecting the right tray and Lidstock combination is key. A common type of failure or issue that is typically seen in a rigid tray or FFS is shock hazard or cold shock. We'll see a video on the left, which actually shows a drop test. This drop test actually shows how there's an impact of the tray in a package when it actually falls on the ground during handling or during transportation. As you can see, the box is dropped, and this can happen in a drop situation. The sterile barrier system has created a lot of impact. There's a lot of impact on the sterile barrier system, especially on the seals. And the picture on the left shows some orthopedic devices. As you know, orthopedic devices can be heavy. So as you know, some of the kids. And if the device is heavy, and if you have an impact from the drop, then the direct impact goes on the seals. So if you have a package with weaker seals, then it can lead to a seal failure. Another type of failure is cold shock, which is the picture on the right. And the video on the right will show the sterile barrier system on the sideways. In this case, in drop tests, especially in cold conditions, if the impact is on the bottom side of your seal, and if it's combined at a lower temperature, let's say minus -0 or below that, then it can lead to seal creep. The possible causes for seal creep is device fit, which, as I just explained, which can stress the seal during distribution and during drop test. Change in pressure, especially in high altitude shipments. And if you have a low porous material, then there is enough air built up inside the package, which can push up the lid. And if you have a lid stock which has an improper adhesive or a weak adhesive, then it can lead to seal creep. So basically, seal creep is a kind of a seal failure where the adhesive fractures and the seal can pop open. And this failure can be detected using a dye penetration test. So if you have a failure in a dye penetration test in a rigid tray, then more likely than not, it's a seal creep failure. The possible solution for a seal creep is using the right coating. Oliver has about 44 different types of coating depending on the application. One of the other factors that can impact your adhesive is the porosity of the top web. If you have a lid stock or a material which is more porous, then it helps to dissipate the air and then can minimize the seal creep issue. Oliver, as I said, has 44 different coatings, and we develop our coating based on the application, and we have our own internal test method. The video on the right will actually show you the test method where we are testing different kind of adhesives and how we select the right adhesive for commercial application. If you see the three samples on the left is actually a weak adhesive. So typically what happens is when we develop a new adhesive, we actually add we place them in a heated chamber. under a 200-gram weight and then stress it under extreme hot conditions, especially 55 degrees temperature, under stipulated time, typically 24 hours. If it's a weak adhesive, then it will fall down as the 3 samples on the left. And if it's a strong adhesive suitable for the application, then it will stay intact as the 3 samples on the right. Another type of adhesive failure is during the process. The picture on the left, or basically the graph, it actually shows that where the seal is actually visibly clear or looks good, on the seal curve, it's not yet developed and it's not a strong seal because it has not reached the full length of the seal strength. So in this case, the seal actually looks really clear and looks really strong visually, but in reality, the strength is not strong. And if this type of adhesive is used for your application, then you'll end up with a seal failure or a seal creep issue. So visual test is not the only test that can determine seal creep. You need to combine that with seal strength and also with selecting the right adhesive from your manufacturer. Now let's go to selecting the right coating. But before that, let's understand the different type of porous material in the industry. As you know, Tyvek has different grades, 1073B, 1059B, and 2FS. And there are new materials that are coming up in the market. But these are the ones, the most common type of Tyvek that's used. This is the most common type of porous material. The second type of porous material is medical paper. Oliver offers 2 different types of medical paper, SPR 85 and SPR 112. For all the porous material, we have different type of coating, and I think I mentioned that before. We have 44 different type of coating depending on the application. But the main important question comes, why actually use coating? Coating is used to generate a cohesive peel, and cohesive peel provides visual evidence of seal on a film or a tray during the adhesive transfer. And peel strength is actually controlled by the cohesive strength of the adhesive. If you can see the picture on the bottom, you can see an example of a cohesive failure. So basically what happens in a cohesive failure is the adhesive splits into 2, where one part of the split stays on to the Lidstock or the flexible material, and the other part of adhesive stays on to the other part of flexible material in case of pouch, or if it's a tray, it stays on to the rigid tray. So basically there's a visual appeal of a clean peel transfer. So this is a cohesive peel. We'll take a magnified image on the right side. We'll show a video and we can see how a cohesive peel looks like under a magnified image under a microscope. So as you can see, when the Tyvek is pulled over, and this is an example of a rigid tray, you can see there's a clean evidence of adhesive being transferred or stay behind the tray. So this is a cohesive peel. So when you select a coating, you have to make sure that your coating provides you a cohesive peel. Adhesive had 2 different technologies, water-based and hot melt. Our hot melt adhesives provide superior porosity, superior anchorage. It resists aggressive sterilization cycles. It's consistent peel strength over wide sealing range. It's humidity and condensation resistant, and it offers UV light resistant with no yellowing. Our water-based adhesive provides superior cold flex, cold crash resistance. It has great seal peel characteristics, wide seal temperature range, unparalleled resistance to sterilizer creep, and it offers excellent porosity. Adhesives are typically made of 4 different ingredients. They are polymer, wax, resin, and filler. And basically the formulators work with theories of adhesion and cohesion. This is a table where it actually shows how formulation is created. And some of the characteristics that is used for formulation include seal strength, adhesive strength, adhesive transfer, hot tack, cold temperature, performance, and anti-block. We'll not go to the detail, but that's the gist of this particular slide. The 2 different type of technology that I mentioned, hot melt and water based. A distinguishing feature of these two types of adhesive is for hot melt, it can have a uniform seal strength over a wide sealing window. And you can see from the graph, the starting seal strength and the ending seal strength is the same, which means it is less forgiving or is less technically challenging for new startup companies. On the other hand, water-based adhesives are dependent on sealing conditions. As you can see from the graph, the starting seal and ending seal are different, and it offers wide sealing range depending on the sealing conditions. It's more dependent on sealing conditions. So for summary, pouches, rigid tray, and coated Lidstock and HDPE mounting cards are some of the most commonly used SBS materials. Selection of right SBS material is the first important step in packaging design and development. An optimized packaging design is key to a successful validation and timely launch of your medical device. So with that, we have come to the end of our presentation. We would appreciate if you could scan the QR code provided on the right to complete a simple survey and give us your feedback on this technical presentation. With your input, we will continue to improve and provide better content for you and your team in the future. Thank you for your attention today. Do feel free to check out our virtual booth for Oliver Healthcare Packaging at MFA 2020 platform and drop us a message with your contact details should you need more information. Alternatively, you can email us at info@oliver.com, oliver@cp.com. Thank you once again and have a nice day ahead.